Oh, hey, everybody. Welcome to the official Do Good Better podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Kirby. Of course, this show based for all these small and medium-sized nonprofits doing great big things. And we got a great nonprofit for you today. With us today, Morgan Hare. She is one of the co-founders of the AiRS Foundation, coming to us from Dallas, Texas. Morgan, welcome to the official Do Good Better podcast.
Thank you for doing a podcast so we could get our message out about the AiRS Foundation Alliance and Reconstructive Surgery.
I am very excited to talk with you. So if somebody's clicking through YouTube, they're looking on iTunes, this is popping up. They are super interested in this show topic and some of the show notes. Give us a 5,000-foot view of what the AiRS Foundation is.
So the AiRS Foundation was started because my very good friend, she's been my friend for 45 years. And like everyone else, we've had ups and downs in our life, but we decided we wanted to do something to give back. Then we wanted to give a voice to something that had no voice, because there's many foundations out there that do very good work. But we thought there must be something no one's talking about that we could give a voice to. So I wrote to Dr. Rohrich, who's a plastic surgeon here in Dallas, and I said, what's something that no one's talking about that we could give a voice to, that we can tell people about? And he wrote back and said that up to 70% of women who have mastectomies due to breast cancer either don't know about their reconstruction options or can't meet their co-pays for the surgery or have no insurance. And at first we were sort of startled by this because everyone we know has insurance, never talked about it. But once you start sort of evaluating what's going on out there, you realize there are many women who are part of the underserved population who's no one's talking to.
Yeah.
And that was really the genesis then of saying, okay, we have to help these women. We have to tell people this is an issue and we have to help them.
So you personally have zero personal experience with breast cancer or reconstruction at all. You're just figuring out if there's an underserved population and you want to get together and solve it.
Right.
And that's how you stumbled across this.
Yes, neither myself nor my partner, Janet Denlinger, neither one of us have had breast cancer.
That's the definition of a do-gooder right there. I would like to make it a point of order right there. That's amazing. And so you're based out of Dallas, Texas. How many individuals do you serve? Are you just serving in Texas, or do you serve
We
nationwide?
serve people all over the country. We've helped people in over 20 different states. Sometimes it's just as simple as having them correctly fill out their insurance forms. And other times it's really working with the doctors to figure out what the cost of the surgery is, and then how do we get them to donate some of their services. We have a wonderful advocacy group that's run by a woman by the name of Tamara Seeger, who's also a breast cancer survivor. Many of the people who do work with us are breast cancer survivors. So anyone who applies to us for a grant to help pay for their surgery is assigned an advocate. We have good support systems, but many women don't have good support systems, and by having someone they can talk to is really helpful.
Yeah, super helpful. Well, we like to talk about a number of things on this show. One of them is big, hairy, audacious goals. I know every organization has them, regardless of how long they've been around. So for the AiRS Foundation, what is that big goal that you have planned here in either the near future, far future? What do you have up your sleeve to either grow or serve more?
Well, one thing that's really important is having people understand why this is an issue and why it's so important to help these women. I think people forget that we live in a breast society. So we want every woman to be educated about what her options are and to know there's somebody available to help her. And on the other hand, is helping people who aren't affected by this really understand why it's so much of big importance to a woman's journey and what reconstruction means to them in terms of helping restore their self-esteem. You can imagine going through this process and what it does to you psychologically. It's really bad, you know, so anything you can do to help them and to get people to understand this. When we first started this, and I would tell people, you know, we're doing this new foundation and I want to tell you about it, and I would explain it to them, and their first response was, well, they're cured, they should be happy. And I was like, well, yes, they might be cured, but that's one piece of the puzzle for them about feeling good and sort of returning to society, to their jobs, taking care of their children, whatever's going on for them. And the other pushback was, well, they have insurance, don't they? And yes, there was an Insurance Act of 1998 that said insurance companies have to pay for this. But I can tell you they push back all the time because they don't want to pay for it. But it's not only that they have insurance. If somebody's making $30,000 a year and they have 2 children and their copay is $5,000, what are they going to do? Feed their children or get reconstructive surgery?
Right. Right.
So, you know, they're making decisions like that every day of the week.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I would imagine the PTSD or the trauma that comes along with that, and sort of your thought process completely changes immediately after that, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you never get over it. I hear from women who are 8, 10 years out, who it's still in the back of their mind, even though they're cured, they've been through their therapy and everything else. The fear is it could always come back. And in some cases it does.
Right. Right. Interesting. So one of the things that I love about organizations is their actions, everything that they do, and what makes. And there's a lot of organizations, I think, that associate with breast cancer, and even some that associate with reconstruction. But what does the AiRS Foundation do differently than any other group or organization sort of associated with breast cancer?
Well, one is we do a lot of public relations to get the message out. 2, we spend a fair amount of time on social media, and we've been doing live events on social media, on Facebook. We have another one tomorrow night in terms of dealing with the psychological effects. So we're trying to really educate women and help them feel better during this time, or always. You know, psychological effects aren't just here now, but they're forever. And what we do is we actually pay for people's surgery. There's a lot of organizations out there that educate and support, but actually paying for reconstructive surgery is something unique.
That is 100% unique. Absolutely. Is there an application? Is there a process? How does that work if an individual doesn't have the capacity to pay for that?
So what we do is we have an application on our website, and someone needs to fill it out, and they have to include in it their diagnosis, because we want to make sure we really vet people very carefully to make sure that it's not just somebody who wants breast augmentation, that they're really dealing with these issues, that they're financially in need. So we vet people really carefully, and then once we get that application and all the information is there, we assign an advocate to them. We work with their physician of who's going to do their surgery, and we don't give money to any individual. We pay the doctors directly.
Interesting.
So that's something unique that we do. I mean, there are doctors out there who don't donate their services, so people don't necessarily have to come to us. And then there's some doctors who donate their services to us and help us, and that's why we're able to really keep our costs down. We average about $5,000 per surgery, and surgeries can be anywhere, if you look at the total cost of them, anywhere from maybe 15 to, if you're using your own tissue and doing deep flaps, which means you're using your own skin to cover your breast area, those can cost up to $150,000.
Jeez.
Yeah, I don't think people are aware of it now.
Nope.
70% of women who have reconstruction, they'll put in what are called expanders. So they expand the skin, and then they'll put in implants. So that's 70% of the people who get that. And that's pretty general. And sometimes they'll do something called one and done. And one and done means at the time of your mastectomy, there's enough skin that they can put in the implants, and that's called one and done. If somebody needs flaps and they're going to use their own body tissue, that's a much longer, more expensive procedure. So it really depends on you and where you are and what your needs are of what you do. And that's why the patient has to work with their plastic surgeon and their breast surgeon to determine what's best for them.
I am, as you can see, a guy, so I don't think about this at all. And it's sort of, I think, an acknowledgement. I think that the PR piece and the actual education piece, I think, is so. The advocacy piece, I think, is super important. From a documented success story, what have you documented of some successes, some challenges, and maybe those that you said 20 states. How many individuals are you serving a year through some of your programming?
Well, We're serving about 40 women a year. We have many more women who we talk to on a routine basis who are in the process of, having chemo or radiation and not quite ready yet for reconstructive surgery. Our goal is to get up to be able to help 100 women a year. And that's, to be honest with you, it sounds like an ambitious goal, but there's so many more women who could use our help. But
we endorse highly audacious and big dreaming goals here on the official Do Good Better podcast. That's for sure.
Yeah. So the issue is, and this is a big issue, is we can get to people through public relations and social media. The problem is the women who are part of the underserved population, they don't necessarily read the magazines or the newspapers or whatever they write about us. So what we're trying to do is reach out to the communities where these women live to let them know we're here and that we can help them. And in some cases, what's really interesting is they don't want to tell these women about us. And the reason they don't want to tell them is they don't want to get their hopes up that they could possibly have reconstructive surgery. So one of our big issues is really reaching the women who need our help.
Yeah.
How do you reach this population that half the time don't have internet? I mean, they have cell phones, and yes, they text, and yes, they can look things up on their cell phones, but they're not the ones who are spending hours online trying to figure out their next step.
No.
They're not there. So doing anything to get out into the communities to let people know we're here and that we can help them is really a very big goal in terms of outreach for us.
What is a great, or maybe a couple, great things that we can celebrate with you? What's a big thing that we can celebrate, an awesome thing that has happened at the AiRS Foundation that we can just celebrate? We know that nonprofits don't take enough time to celebrate their wins, so we're going to do it now, damn it. And we're going to celebrate with you, Morgan, on what's a big win that we can celebrate with you today.
A big win is, we do this not to get something back for ourselves. We're doing this to help women. But the big win is when somebody writes to us and tells us how we've changed their life. How this has really allowed them to feel good about themselves. When a woman writes to me and says, before I had my reconstructive surgery, every day when I looked in the mirror, I was reminded I had breast cancer. And now I look in the mirror and just think I have beautiful breasts. Every time I tell that story, I get chills because that's what people tell us. In every story, I mean, I can tell you stories of women who call us and what they're dealing with in their lives that just make you want to cringe and make you say, I have to help these people. Everyone in our organization jokes that I have the softest touch because I can't turn anybody away. So the big wins are really knowing that we're helping somebody restore their self-esteem, their dignity, feeling really good about themselves again, becoming productive, caring about their families. I mean, that's really what's meaningful, is that you can affect somebody's life to help them move forward and feel good.
One of the things that we were mentioning before the show started, and you touched on it a little bit earlier on what you do as an organization, is your advocacy program. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what makes that so important as a part of the AiRS Foundation system of success here?
Well, it's really for these women who have no support systems, maybe, or no one to talk to, is having somebody who's there as a friend to talk to them. Again, these are women, most of them who've had breast cancer. So they understand the journey that these women are going through, and they're near. There's someone to talk to. So when you're having a bad day and there's no one to turn to, and there's no one who could sort of maybe make you feel a little better, that's what these women do. They're available to the women who apply to us for a grant 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If they're having a problem Sunday morning, they can call. If it's 12 o'clock at night and they really want to talk to somebody, they can talk to somebody. So, these are really women who are very dedicated because they've been through the process in helping women. And then the other thing that's really important about our advocacy program is, looking for doctors who are willing to help us and donate their services. Tattoo artists, it's not only about breast reconstruction, but it's also doing a tattoo to create a nipple and what a nipple looks like. And if you've ever seen it or looked it up, they look fabulous. I mean, it's not the same as having a nipple, but it's looks better. I mean, everything you could do to help them look better and feel better about themselves. So a lot of times what the advocates will do is, one, again, maybe they didn't fill out their insurance forms correctly to get their insurance to cover it. So they'll look at the insurance forms and say, okay, you should have done this, that, or the other thing differently. And if you can fill this out, you may get your insurance to pay for it. And that happens.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think there's a bit of mystery that clouds, I have no idea who else has been affected by this, and nobody understands what I'm going through. And I think you find that with any either sort of survivor of any particular diseases, like what social circles do I have now that understand sort of the regular trauma that I have received. And so I think that's a really important piece to this puzzle, is that that circle of advocacy and almost friendship like camaraderie that you need to have, I think, when you're recovering for a lifetime of having a mastectomy like that.
You know, it's nice to know you're not alone. You know, so many times we go through things and it's our feelings and we think, if I voice this, somebody's going to think I'm a terrible person, that I'm, feeling distraught. I'm feeling my life might be over. I have nothing to look forward to. I mean, they're just in a really dark place in some ways. And knowing that you can pick up the phone and talk to somebody and say, hey, I've been there. Mm-hmm. I know how you're feeling, and you can get over those feelings. I'm here to talk to you. Yeah. It's the worst thing is to feel you're the only one who's thinking something and nobody else is thinking the same thing. And that's why we're doing these live events on Facebook, is so that people can write in and sort of, while you're online, sort of not only are the doctors talking about issues, but they'll answer your questions live. So if somebody's really feeling bad about something, we've done one on reconstructive surgery because a lot of surgeries have been delayed because of the virus and doctors couldn't operate. What does that mean to me? We did one with a surgical oncologist talking about if all of a sudden they're not going to do your mastectomy, and that's happened during this time period, and they're putting you on tamoxifen or something else so that your tumor doesn't spread, but it's still you sitting there for 6 months waiting until somebody can do your mastectomy. We did one on radiation oncology, and how does that fit in with anything else of having to go for your radiation treatment someplace where they're dealing with the COVID-19 virus? So really trying to address these issues so that women don't feel alone. I'm not the only one going through this. Other people are too. And how do we help people really understand they're not alone?
Mm-hmm. One of the most important things that I think organizations do and nonprofits is the idea of gratitude and appreciation. So is there a group of people, is there an individual, is there a donor, anybody that you'd like to give shout outs to for being a champion of the AiRS Foundation and just making a massive difference in what you do as an organization?
Well, one is the Allergan Foundation. They've just been terrific in supporting us and funding some of our activities in terms of outreach and support. So there's organizations like that who really do help us. And then there's some individuals who have been great about donating to us. And, a small donation, big donation, doesn't matter. Any donation is helpful. And, myself and Janet Denlinger and Dr. Rohrich, when we started this, we all put our own money in to do this. So I give a shout out to the two of them for really wanting, once we decided to do this, to support us for doing this. Mm-hmm. And then there's, doctors who give their services. Alexis Hazen, who's on our board, has been a huge supporter and has donated some services. Julie Louise Dreyfus. That's an interesting, I know that comes out of left field in some way. That does. She, her surgeon who did her reconstructive surgery, Jay Orinker's on our board. And she was looking for somebody that she could donate to because she was named the Saks Fifth Avenue's Champion of the Year in 2018. And what they do is they do, cause every year, and they have somebody who then is a spokesperson for their cause. So through talking to Jay Oringer and talking to me, she decided as an ambassador that Saks would donate all money they raised to the AiRS Foundation.
That's
It was
awesome.
their best fundraiser they ever did. They
Yeah.
raised more money for us than anyone else did. So a big shout out to Julia Louis-Dreyfus for helping us, and also to Saks Fifth Avenue to supporting our organizations. That was a huge win for us.
Oh,
Huge.
that's awesome. Oh, I
Yeah.
love to hear that. That's super great. Well, as for being on a guest on the show and for taking the time out of your day to chat with us, I love to give back and show my gratitude to you by answering a fundraising question and how I can help your organization. So, Morgan, is there a fundraising question that you would like answered today? And I will do my best to answer it for
Okay.
you.
So this is the biggest question we're dealing with at the moment. Can't have fundraisers because you can't have a large group of people together.
True.
So that creates an issue. Everybody's very focused, and I understand this, and my heart goes out to anyone who's lost their job, has the disease, lost a family member or a dear friend. But in the meantime, we still need to fundraise so that we can continue to help these women. And that's a big issue right now, because when you talk to people, they're giving their monies to these other organizations which are supporting anything related to COVID-19. So the big question is, and I know this is on the minds of many foundations, whatever their cause is how we're going to deal with this year to ensure that we raise enough money to continue helping people get the reconstructive surgery when they want it.
Great question. And you are 100% right. It is on everybody's mind. And I will give you Patrick Kirby's, host of the official Do Good Better podcast, opinion on this. One of the things that I insist upon is that there is enough money to go around, and that those who have an abundance mindset that don't think everybody has lost everything, those that have high capacity still have high capacity, those that want to give, it becomes a communication issue. And yes, frontline healthcare workers, like homeless and food and basic needs, very, very important during these super trying times. Yes. However, there are individuals and groups and families who are obsessed with what you do because you do amazing things. Your former donors, your current donors, and your potential donors want to help those that you are serving. And so it takes asking or providing individuals with a way to help so that they feel good inside. We say all the time on the show, it is not the organization's need to have, it is the donor's need to give. And so your conversations that you want to have with the general public and your circles are, find those who still believe that what you do is amazingly important. And you might not get 100% of what you got last year. Understandable. Everyone's going to take a hit. 10%, 15% is kind of what we're seeing in projections across the board of reductions in revenue going forward. It's fine. We can make that up, dang it, because you're smart and you're audacious and you come up with creative ideas online. But it's insisting that you have conversations with your stakeholders and those who believe in what you do now more than ever. And it's talking about what you just had a conversation with is people are not getting in to have their mastectomies done. Once they do, they are in a world of confusion that you need to help provide, because not only do they have, COVID-19 trauma to deal with, and like I can't get in to see a doctor on a regular basis, but they also have now this trauma of having a mastectomy or just recently having one. So you are serving the frontline individuals who are not being served or cared for by those who they normally would. You do important work. And I think that's one of the important things to remind yourself every day is that yes, frontline workers are great and frontline workers are important. And those to feed homeless and hungry and those out of work is important. What you do also matters. And it's very difficult to get your brain into a position that say I matter just as much as some of these frontline areas. To donors and donors who support you, you do. And I think it's important to acknowledge that you don't want to abandon them. Now, from a fundraising event and fundraisers, I think people can get very creative virtually. I think what you have to double down on are opportunities when you go live on Facebook and do these events as explaining where those who want to continue to support us, here's a place to go and here's where your money's going to be produced.
Right.
Being very clear about that is going to help. And that clear messaging and your ability to communicate the need and what it's going to go for and how it's going to help individuals, I think you're going to see you on the other end of this, on the other side, in a very good position.
That's great advice. Thank you.
I hope it helps. I hope it helps for everybody else listening out there, because it's an important question. I'm glad you asked it, Morgan, because that is really what I think a lot of people are questioning. But again, you matter. What you do matters. The people you serve matter. Sure as hell matter. And it's up to you to sort of convey that message to those who have the potential to donate and who really have what you do on their hearts. And that's what you want to do. You want to connect to as many people as possible who believe in what you do. And how do you do that is just tell your story to as many people as possible and get an option on how they can help you. Give it to the world, and poof, I think you're going to be well on your way. However, that's where people can help you right now. So we've come to the end of the show, but I want to make sure that people who are listening to this and say, AiRS Foundation, I want to give you all of my money I've hidden in a sack underneath my bed just for this time. I figured out how to do this. So Morgan, how can they get a hold of you? How can individuals support the AiRS Foundation? Give me all of the info. How do we help?
Okay, so they can go to our website, which is AiRS, airsfoundation.org, and donate. They can call me, and I'll give you a phone number if someone wants to call me. I'm happy to take their call. It's 214-295-4366. They can write to me at morgan@airsfoundation.org. I answer every email. I take every first call. They all come to me, which surprises people when they find out they're talking to a founder and not just anyone on the phone. So they're me. They'll reach me. So those are the three ways you can do it. Again, you can go to our website, you can call me, you can write to me, and no donation is too small.
We'll, of course, link to all of your social media sites so people can follow you on all of your videos, to make sure that they share, of course, with all their friends and get into their circles as well. People who are not connected with the AiRS Foundation very much should, and share and like and begin the conversation with those who have the potential, who need your services.
And they should tell their friends about it, because you never know who needs help.
Absolutely.
Because they're not talking about it because they're too embarrassed to say, I need help.
I love it.
So yes, social media is really important. Listen to our live events. Sign up to be on our email list so that you know about all of them, because we'll continue to cover subjects that really matter to people.
Outstanding. You have been a fantastic guest, Morgan. Thank you so much. I loved learning about the AiRS Foundation. I loved learning how we can help the AiRS Foundation. And thank you so much for your time today here on the official Do Good Better podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks, Morgan.
Bye.